Hey folks, walk with me. Well, we're getting mighty close to election day, and I try not to make this channel wildly political. I'm going to try not to in this video. But if we pretend that we learned nothing from 2020, I think that's kind of foolish. And so I'm going to just point something out and propose a little something. So I suspect, I could be totally wrong about everything I'm about to say, of course, keep that in mind. I suspect that Trump is not going to win this election. I further suspect that he will roll out a really similar game plan, because he has done that every time that he's run, right? He made many of the same claims about the election and the run-up to the election in 2016 as he did in 2020, as he is now in 2024. He made many of the same assertions about Hillary and her cognitive decline and so on and so forth as he did about Biden, as he is now doing somehow about VP Harris. And we know what happened in the aftermath of early November 2020 and all of the lawsuits that were filed and the attempts that were made, and then of course everything culminating in January 6th, and then him still not having the common decency or capability as a humble person to do what has always normally been done, which is meet the president-elect on the day of the inauguration, right? Obama did it for him, obviously. What I think is going to happen this time is I think he's going to lose, like I said. And then I think I think they've already been game planning how to try to get things run up to the Supreme Court in order to nullify whatever they need to nullify, reverse whatever they need to reverse in order to change the outcome. And I think the basis for this is going to be Harris should have never been allowed on the ballot in certain states. And I think that at a bare minimum, it's going to be, that seems like the obvious one to me, but I think there's probably half a dozen or more ways in which they're going to raise questions. And I don't know if I would call this a warning, but the thing that gives me pause, if you are prone to be paused by that sort of thought, is last time around in 2020, when he was trying to pull out all the stops to change the results, he had, Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, and at the end of the day, he had Code Monkey, right, from 4chan, who was steeped in the QAnon stuff, which I need to make a video about sooner than later. But that's who he had helping him with this stuff. This time around, as far as I see it, he has Elon, and Elon could very easily take the place of Code Monkey, right? And that right there is a huge shift. But then you have the backing of like the folks from the All In podcast, Peter Thiel, obviously, and I think knowing that it's going to be very hard for him to reemerge in 2028, though they might be sort of happy going the DeSantis route. Now that I think about it, all of those people I just mentioned might be very happy going the DeSantis route and letting him just kind of float off. But the degree to which they're not, I would just say, last time around, he had this band of misfits trying to swing things his direction. And this time around, I think the crew looks quite different. And I don't think that that's by mistake. I think, again, total conjecture, speculation, opinion. I think there's been a lot of maneuvering behind the scenes. You'll get this if I get this, or you'll get that if I get this, whatever. Quid pro quoing all over the place is my guess. You know, appointments to power, oversight, whatever it is. Maybe it's mostly whatever they want. I don't know. But I would expect those folks to step up strong in the days after the election and make some really big moves. And it might be a really chaotic couple of months, 10 weeks. It's not going to be 4chan and QAnon and the Donald.win and Proud Boys and whatever anymore. It's going to be more capable people, smarter people by a long shot, much wealthier people by a long shot. And so I'm keeping my antenna stretched out for that reason. Though I do think, and this did honestly just dawn on me in this video, I do think there may be something to be said that those folks, or even just some of those folks that I mentioned, are willing to go along with this because they're in such an echo chamber, or they just know that like they're not going to be able to get close to power with Harris because there isn't this prone to quid pro quo nature. And so, you know, they have to put their chips on Trump because he's the one who would do it. And so it is interesting to me, though, that if things don't go his way election night, do they actually help out and take that next step, which is a big step? Or do they say, you know what? If we don't do this, mostly probably what happens is we get him out of the way once and for all for who we actually have wanted in there this whole time, or much of this time, which is DeSantis. We really clear a path for him in 2028, and he'd be coming in on the backs of a Harris administration, which gives him ample opportunity to just chuck javelins and darts at that, right? And say, here's all the ways that this administration has screwed up the last 4 years, as did the administration the 4 years before that, which she was a part of. End this here, right? Put me in. I think that gives him, or whomever the candidate is, a much stronger position from which to run, rather than Trump getting in, doing whatever he does, and then the 2028 candidate, so again, if it's DeSantis or Haley or whatever, getting in and having to defend the last 4 years, whether they feel that they should have to or not, it's going to come up. But I think that that's going to be harder, a harder swing to be swung than if the Harris presidency happens and then they get a much younger, a much more capable person to run against her in 2028. Now I don't know. I still think no matter what, whether the All-In Boys, Peter Thiel, Elon, I mean, we're talking about a very small group of people here who have a lot of history together. But also, I mean, I'm not naming them as though they are the group, right? I think that they are probably likely go-to people. Some of them I think are probably quite involved already. But I'm sure there are plenty others that are just not sort of in my scope. But But this does have me questioning, because they were very DeSantis people, which makes me suspect they're still DeSantis people, right? Because he has a bigger future in front of him than Trump does. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that this is the plan for now. Throw up a bunch of shenanigans, the most obvious of which is challenge her ability to have been on the ballot at all, and try to get stuff thrown out because of that. And don't get it stuck in the state courts anymore. Get it up to the Supreme Court. But beyond that, now I am wondering, what will those DeSantis supporters do if push comes to shove there? Will they actually go to bat and follow through? Or will they have a moment of, wait a minute, it'll be much easier for DeSantis to try to come in 2028 on the heels of a Harris administration that was preceded by a Biden administration, rather than having to answer for 4 years of Trump and J.D. Vance. I know the calculus that I would make, or the decision that I would make, but I guess time will tell what theirs is going to be. All right, I thought this video would be half this long, but here we are. I'm opining obnoxiously. So I'm gonna cut it here, but if you did walk with me, we got about 12 minutes in, or we will have 12 minutes in here in a few seconds. And if not, I still appreciate you coming along and watching all this way, and I will see you in the next video.